This case will put you off ever talking to anyone online. This male stabbed his girlfriend over 90 times and then FaceTimed his sister to show her the dead body. Ashley Wadsworth was a 19-year-old girl who met Jack Seppel on Facebook in 2015. She was roughly 11 or 12 at the time, and Jack was around 15 or 16. They spent the following years continuously sharing messages and chatting online about their lives. Now, Ashley was from Canada and Jack was from Essex in the UK. Jack treated her really nicely to begin with, talking to her all the time and showering her with gifts and attention. When Ashley turned 16, the relationship between the two began to develop. Ashley would ask her parents often if she could go to the UK to travel to meet Jack. At first they were obviously against this, seeing as Jack lived abroad and the two had never met. However, in 2021, Ashley had graduated high school and saved up to make the trip to meet Jack. Jack actually reassured Ashley's family that he would guard her with his life. Little did they know, she wouldn't actually need protecting from anyone other than him. In November 2021, the pair met for the first time. They went sightseeing around London and Ashley documented this on her social media. However, things began to take a turn over the next couple of months. Jack started controlling Ashley. He demanded her social media passwords and made her delete photos without him in them. He also became physically abusive towards her. She was covered in bruises from Jack, and in one altercation he smashed a glass over her head. The young girl tried to reach out for help from her friends, but it was clear she was scared of Jack. Bearing in mind Jack had access to all of her social media, she sent a message to one of her friends one day warning, "Be careful what you say, he's watching," and she then unsent the message to prevent him seeing it. On the 1st of February 2022, Ashley turned up to Jack's mum's flat barefoot. She had run there, she was crying and hysterical. She said Jack had smashed her phone, beat her up and cut her hand. Now, following this incident, her parents actually booked her a flight home. She was relieved by this and returned to Jack's flat to wait to go home. Now that day, bearing in mind this is now obviously nighttime in Canada, Ashley's sister received a text begging her to wake up and answer the phone. When she eventually got this message, she tried to ring Ashley back and got no reply. At this point, Jack's mum tried to go round to Jack's house and get in. She wasn't able to do so and the police were eventually called. When officers arrived, Jack wouldn't open the door, so they forced entry. They found an absolutely hideous scene. Jack was lying next to Ashley's dead body in a pool of blood. Jack was casually on FaceTime to his sister, showing her the dead body. He admitted to strangling her and stabbing her. Jack was sentenced to life with a minimum of 23.5 years.
A good ad is supposed to get people thinking about a product, but some ads end up being more offensive than others. This is an ad for Fitness First, which is a bus stop that would tell you your weight as you sat on there. Here's a bench by Nike telling you to not sit down and keep fit, but also removing a nice place for a homeless person to sleep. This ad for Jeep highlights the vehicle's off-road capabilities by saying you can park it on people's staircases. I don't need to tell you why this one's controversial. Here's an ad for security glass filled with money, and here's security footage of people trying repeatedly to get in there and get at the money. To be honest, this one's fucking great. I would use security glass if I had anything of value. If this poster were a homeless youth, most people wouldn't even bother to look. True, there's one for the movie It, just being unnecessarily scary. And Nike again, being ableist. What a good marketing tactic. My absolute favourite, this is a ketchup packet by a charity trying to campaign against landmines.
One sec, just calculating the odds that Donald Trump actually is a time traveler. And they say he pulled it off with the help of Nikola Tesla. Hey, someone get this nut job off the internet already. Listen, I'm about to spit a series of pure facts, as I usually do, that support this insane theory. Even I found this one hard to believe at first, and it may not be true, but the evidence was just getting harder and harder to deny. Feel free to fact check any of these and make your own independent decision on what you think. You ready? For real, let me know if any single one of these points is not true. Nikola Tesla was an imaginative inventor in the early 1900s with a keen interest in time travel. That's a fact. According to reports, in 1895 he made a shocking discovery suggesting, not confirming, that time and space could be influenced by magnetic fields. After which he's quoted as saying he could see the past, present, and future all at the same time. When Tesla passed away in 1943, the FBI and Office of Alien Properties seized his research and handed it to a team for study, among whom was John G. Trump, Donald Trump's uncle and a well-respected electrical engineer pioneer at MIT. This all actually happened. John G. Trump claimed Tesla's documents did not include new sound workable principles or methods for realizing any results, which may be trying to downplay what Tesla's work was truly capable of. In 1952, after a U.S. court declared Sava Kasanovich, Nikola Tesla's nephew, the rightful heir to his uncle's estate, Tesla's files and other materials were sent to Serbia, where the nephew lived, and they now reside at the Nikola Tesla Museum. But while the FBI originally recorded some 80 trunks of documents among Tesla's work, only 60 trunks arrived in Serbia. Maybe they packed the 80 into 60, but there is the possibility that someone kept the missing documents. So, John G. Trump receives 80 trunks of Tesla's confiscated documents, some of which have never been shown to the public, and only 60 are returned. Keep this story in mind, because we barely even grazed a tip. Now, a lawyer and writer named Ingersoll Lockwood lived in New York City around the same time that Tesla did, in the late 18 to early 1900s. In the 1890s, Ingersoll Lockwood wrote a book called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, which just so happens to share the same name as Donald Trump's son. The book is about an aristocrat boy named Baron who lives in Trump Castle, who gets bored of his life of luxury and decides to go on an adventure. Baron comes into possession of a 15th century manuscript titled A World Within a World, written by a man named Don, who sort of acts as a spiritual mentor throughout the story. Through this manuscript, he travels to Russia to find a portal that leads him into the Hollow Earth and go on a time travel adventure. A pretty standard work of fiction, but an awful lot of coincidences in there if you ask me. Then in 1896, Lockwood writes another book called 1900, or The Last President, in which an unlikely wealthy candidate becomes president of the United States. In the book, no one thought this person would win, so riots break out in New York City claiming, and I quote, "The Fifth Avenue Hotel will be the first to feel the fury of the mob." Trump Tower happens to be on Fifth Avenue in New York City. In The Last President, the president also announces a Secretary of Agriculture named Pence, the same name as Trump's past vice president. Then, when he runs again in 1900, an uproar arises and the Capitol is struck by dynamite and destroyed. A fiasco in the Capitol building following an uproar from a presidential election. Where have we seen that before? The official synopsis of the book claims it laments or mourns the Democrat Party's socialist platform of 1896. Hey, I ain't touching that one. And finally, a quote near the end of the book reads, "As the dawn broke cold and gray, and its first dim light fell upon that shattered dome," referring to the Capitol building, "relax, glorious even in its ruins, a single human eye filled a gleam of devilish joy, looked up at it long and steadily." A single human eye? Gleam of devilish joy? What exactly are they talking about here? In a book written over 120 years ago, almost like it knew what was gonna happen in the future. During a time which Tesla was toying with time travel, whose documents were seized by the uncle of the person named in the book, and sorta outlines his political career. The theory goes, meaning this part right here is not a fact, John G. Trump took Tesla's documents, used them to make a time machine, and shared that tech with his family, who then used it to travel through time and warn the world of impending doom through a series of books. Why be so cryptic about it and warn the world through books instead of just outright telling us? The time traveler's dilemma. If we're outright warned by someone from the future about some impending doom, the perpetrators of that doom will come up with another plan as their original one had been foiled. Crazy, 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 insane, ridiculous nonsense. Time travel is impossible, and it never will be, right? Famed PhD physicist Michio Kaku doesn't seem to think so. Quoted as saying, "Once confined to fantasy and science fiction, time travel is now simply an engineering problem." In 2003. Might be possible is still very far from confirmed, but it also means it's not 100% impossible. Even the Google debunker's beloved Snopes fact-checking website calls this particular theory mostly true, deriving the mostly from a handful of nitpick technicalities, like Don isn't his real name in the book, it's just a title for a man and such. One coincidental fact? Sure. 2, 3 maybe even, why not? But 14 factual coincidences with absolutely no connection whatsoever? What are the chances of that? Hey yo, somebody run those facts back and let me know. I think they're catching on.
This SpongeBob origin story is so dark, it will change the way you look at SpongeBob forever. Pearl's father is actually the whale we see in the jailbreak episode in Season 9, but he's actually in there for killing his wife, also known as Pearl's mother. After he tried to escape the scene before getting arrested, Mr. Krabs stumbled across the crime scene and the carcass of the mother whale and baby Pearl left all by herself. But here's the disturbing part. When a whale dies, its dead body can fuel an entire ecosystem. And so Mr. Krabs, overcome with excitement and greed, sees this as an opportunity to make a shit ton of money and comes up with the idea of the Krusty Krab restaurant adding pieces of Pearl's mother into the Krabby Patty formula as the secret ingredient. But here's where it gets real dark. Mr. Krabs only adopted Pearl as an alternative meat supply in case he runs out, and is trying to isolate her from her father and friends. Could this be the reason why he spoils her with so many gifts, so that she doesn't end up leaving? Throughout the program, Mr. Krabs always expresses how once his daughter is fully grown, she's going to go off to college, when in actuality what he means is, she's getting butchered, cooked, and served up to customers. Follow for more dark origin stories.
If you are in Hawaii at night, and you hear mysterious chanting and drum beating, run in the opposite direction, and whatever you do not look towards it. What you are hearing might just be the Hawaiian night marches. The night marches are the spirits of ancient Hawaiian warriors, chiefs, and royalty who march the Hawaiian Islands at night, carrying torches, chanting, and beating drums. If you make eye contact with them, stand in the way of their marching, or do not show respect to them, the consequences are dire. They will either unalive you or make you join them and their eternal march. It is said that if you accidentally make eye contact with them or find yourself in their way, you must lay on the ground motionless with your face to the ground. This is the only way to survive. There have been many sightings of the night marches by both locals and tourists. Tales of ghostly chanting heard in the distance, and reports of torches being seen deep in the jungle, only to find when investigated, there are no trails left behind.
Mind-blowing cases of reincarnation. This case is actually kind of like a 2-in-1, true crime turned reincarnation. In 1946, Florence and John Pollock had their first daughter named Joanna, and in 1951 they had their second daughter named Jacqueline. The family lived in Hexham in Northumberland, England, where they were basically raised by their grandmother, as John and Florence were always preoccupied with their delivery business. Joanna and Jacqueline were always very close, and Joanna loved taking care of Jacqueline, seeing herself as a good big sister and almost like a second mother. Both of the girls were very creative. They loved dressing up and acting out little scenes for their parents, and they generally just enjoyed each other's company. They had a pretty normal upbringing, and nothing in the family was out of the ordinary, except when Joanna would say that she would never grow up to be a lady, but that she would always be a kid. Obviously, no one took that seriously until something happened that made that statement quite eerie. Fast forward to May 7th, 1957, when Joanna was 11 and Jacqueline was 6. The girls were walking to church with their neighbor friend, which is something they did quite often. As they were walking, a car came up behind them and purposefully hit them, going extremely fast. Tragically, the Pollock girls died on impact, and their friend died at the hospital shortly after. When their mother Florence found out, she was sent into a depression for a long time, while John, on the other hand, had the belief that the girls were in heaven or that they would be reincarnated or something. Their differences in beliefs put a wedge in the relationship because John would entertain this belief that they would be reincarnated while Florence just wanted to move past it. The strain this put on the relationship came to the point where they almost got a divorce, but despite this, they stayed together and Florence got pregnant again. From the beginning of her pregnancy, the doctor confirmed that Florence was only going to have one baby, but John always felt like there would be 2. Up until the day Florence gave birth, the doctor was wrong on how many children she would have. On October 4th, 1958, Florence gave birth to twin girls named Jillian and Jennifer, and everyone except John were in complete shock. John immediately believed that the twins were the reincarnation of Joanna and Jacqueline, but Florence wanted nothing to do with this idea and actually had no spiritual beliefs at this point. That was until she realized that the twins had the same exact birthmarks that Joanna and Jacqueline had. Not only did they have the same birthmarks, but at around the age of 3, Jacqueline, one of their past daughters, had a fall that left a scar above her eye. It turns out that Jennifer was born with a mark above her eye that's identical to the scar above Jacqueline's eye. When the twins were around 9 months old, the family moved from Hexham to a town called Whitley Bay to get away from where the accident happened. Once the twins were old enough to start talking, they would talk about toys they had never played with before, but Jacqueline and Joanna did, despite there being no way they could have known about them. Florence and John went to the attic, got the toys out, and the girls immediately started sorting whose is whose. Jennifer picked all of Jacqueline's toys, while Jillian chose all of Joanna's toys. At this point, the twins didn't even know they had older sisters that were no longer alive, because that would be a difficult topic to bring up to very young children. The twins had the exact same favorite foods, personality, mannerisms, walk, and even body body type as Joanna and Jacqueline did. It was even little things like when Jacqueline started learning how to write, she struggled with holding her pencil correctly, which is something Jennifer also struggled with. Something else that was kind of weird was that, although they were twins, Jillian treated Jennifer like a mother figure just like Joanna did for Jacqueline. There were multiple occasions where Florence and John swear they overheard the twins talking about Joanna and Jacqueline's death, recalling details they couldn't have known. The thing is though, is that when they would talk about it, they would talk about it like it was an experience that they themselves went through. The twins had a fear of cars, knowing street safety before being taught it, and they would talk about Joanna and Jacqueline's favorite park in Hexham opposite of where the family used to live that they never heard of or been to. Eventually, word got out that something weird was going on with these girls, and in 1963, psychologist Dr. Ian Stevenson became intrigued with their case. He ended up making contact with the family and met the twins when they were around 4 years old. He interviewed the parents, examined birthmarks, and just did a lot of talking with the twins about their lives. He met with them again when they were 13 and then again at 20, but at this point they had no past life memories left at all, which is something common in reincarnation cases. It's like the older they get, the further they are from their past life, so memories start to fade. Dr. Stevenson ended up writing a case report on the Pollock twins as well as mentioned them in the 1987 book titled Children Who Remember Previous Lives. He would go on to write 12 different books on reincarnation and study thousands of cases, which to me, knowing that there are that many cases, makes reincarnation just a little more believable. Of course, anyone can say this case was completely made up by their parents, which very well could be true, but it's still one of the most fascinating cases of reincarnation I have ever come across.
There's spiders from Asia that are coming in right now. And yeah, literally, there's these yellow spiders that are coming from Asia and infesting, I think right now, New York.
Where are they coming from though?
Asia. Like,
But how,
in
though?
Southeast Asia. I don't know. Don't blame it on me. Don't blame it on me. But I think what happened was somebody probably took a spider
Yeah.
out there and it started like breeding and shit.
I wonder who did that, man.
Nah, don't make that shit.
Allegedly.
Yo, but it's literally
There's actually no way. This
Look,
guy started the trend, bro.
spider in New York.
Nah, this might be W publicity for rap, bro.
Look. Giant flying Joro spiders coming to NYC area this summer. Stuff from your nightmares. Look at it though. It's yellow. It looks like the spider. Look at that, bro.
My God.
Isn't that wild?
See, like something like that. Okay, so on the I
Look
remember.
at that shit. That's big. That's the size of your finger.
Yeah, I know, fam. On the second night, when we were in Batangas, we had no like nets.
Do not watch this. This film was brought to my attention this morning. One of my followers left me a comment and said that I should watch this film. So me being me, I went away and I looked for it, but I couldn't find a copy anywhere. It's the first movie that I simply can't find a copy of. But what I found out about this movie is horrific. There's a lot of mystery centered around this film, and I'm going to do my best to try and explain it to you. My name's Ricky. I love disturbing films, and this is R73, a dark web mystery. So apparently this film made its way onto the dark web in 2015, and ever since then there's been an awful lot of mystery centered around it. So R73 itself is a 10-minute long clip, which is allegedly a part of a longer film that runs for about 3 hours. And it's said that this extended version of this film contains some of the nastiest stuff you can imagine. Not stuff that we have covered on this channel before, like real bad, real world nasty stuff. The 3-hour version of this film is allegedly meant to contain a very well-known film that I refuse to name. But it turns out that while R73, the 10-minute version of this film, is super heavy and its motives of why it was made have been brought into question, the rumours centered around the 3-hour long version of this are not true. It's said that basically Reddit set up these rumours. Reddit spread a bunch of rumours about this film to try and maybe boost its notoriety. I don't know, Reddit is a weird place. So what is R73? So from all the research that I've done on this film, R73 is a shock video that lasts for 10 minutes. It consists primarily of medical surgeries performed throughout the Syrian war. And from the research that I've done, it doesn't just involve soldiers, it involves civilians that
does include children. And for that reason, people are calling this film medical gore. It's said that at the end of this 10-minute clip, there is one final clip that isn't like the rest of the videos that we see in R73. And apparently that plays into the idea of the 3-hour-long version of R73. Like I said, I couldn't find this. Some people say that this doesn't exist at all. But I've watched a lot of reviews about this morning. I've read a lot about this morning. And from what I can tell, the 10-minute version at least does exist. And it consists mainly of medical surgeries taking place throughout the Syrian war. I have no real interest in watching this. I think once I saw what this was about, it was a big nope for me. I can watch a lot of messed up stuff when I know it's not real. But once we cross over that line into real life, it's a no for me. So why was this made? I get why people want to watch stuff like this. I get that people are interested in things that the news don't report. But by all accounts, this 10-minute film has been edited in such a way that glorifies the action. And some people argue that this 10-minute film even goes as far as the acts themselves. Like I've said, I have no interest in watching this, but I am interested in internet culture. We're living in an age now where our modern day folklore comes from the early days of the internet. And while this mystery started in 2015, it is a part of internet folklore. Things like creepypastas, the Slender Man, horror is changing. Things that frightened people in the 80s or the 70s came from real life. They came from people who have passed, or old traditions, or old laws, or people being afraid of war or whatever. But with the rise of the internet, our consciousness is changing. While the fear of war or the fear of the apocalypse is still a very real fear, a lot of our fears now come from the thing that we hold in our hand. The internet is a very, very scary place. I've always been drawn to internet mysteries. Things like the Slender Man, or videos that were posted in the early days of YouTube that somebody saw once. I love an internet mystery. And while I find this stuff interesting, when it actually comes to watching the real thing, the real act, I'm not interested.
This woman murdered her husband in the most unusual way, and their son witnessed the whole thing. It was September 2016. Ramandeep Kaur Man from Derby was married to Sukhjit Singh. The pair had met in 2002 when Ramandeep was 17 and he was 20. They married each other a few years later and went on to have 2 sons. From the outside, the pair looked happy. However, things would soon come to a chilling end for the pair, witnessed entirely by their son. Now, Sukhjit's childhood best friend Gurpreet Singh was secretly having an affair with his wife. They'd been seeing each other for about a year behind his back when they hatched a murderous plan. It's believed that the motive behind this was to claim on his life insurance policy. On the 2nd of September, Ramandeep was cooking for her husband. His favourite dish was a biryani, and she knew this. She took some substances and laced his curry with them. She served it up to him, and after eating the curry, he became quite disoriented, quite sleepy, and quite confused. He headed up to bed, and his wife followed, along with his friend Gurpreet. Shortly after, Ramandeep held a pillow over his head. As he gasped for breath, it woke up the pair's eldest son, Arjun. The 9-year-old watched in horror as Gurpreet hit his dad over the head with a hammer. Ramandeep then cut his throat. Now, the child was obviously traumatized by witnessing all this, but bravely eventually gave evidence in court. The murderous pair never did get to claim the £2 million life insurance policy. Gurpreet was given life in prison and fined £3,000. Ramandeep has been sentenced to death but has appealed.
There's these specific coordinates that people have been putting on Google Earth. So when you put these coordinates in, it shows you like a wasteland, right?
Yeah.
Nothing around it except in the middle, there's like a big, it's like a portal. And this is why it was weird, because obviously it's just, maybe it might be some glitch.
Yeah.
But if you look around and you zoom in into everything, there's tanks. There's random tanks guarding the portal.
Nah.
So I'll show you. There's only one video on TikTok that shows it right now. I'll show you. I'll show you.
What do you mean portal though? Like actual?
I'll just show you. Look.
It's in the States.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Doesn't that look like
It
some
looks
shit
like a
off-
UFO.
Yeah. But here's the crazy thing. Look, there's shit. There's random shit around it.
Is it water? What is that?
I don't know.
It looks like water or something.
Yeah, it's fucked.
What the fuck?
Like in a what do you call this? In a crazy radius too. That's why already they've blocked it from, like, they've shadow banned it from the Google Earth.
That's
You'll
not
see
Area
it.
51, is it?
I don't think so.